is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome to the MorganMan Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Stacy Cole Morgan. Here on the MorganMan Sports Podcast, we talk Atlanta Falcons news, pre-game predictions, and all other news surrounding the Atlanta Falcons.
Touchdown, Atlanta!
Also on the podcast, we talk Call of Duty League, esports, covering Roster Mania, major predictions, COD champs, player trades, and much more to get you ready for every single CDL weekend.
Scuff goes through, and Scuff snaps, wins the one-on-one in optic with the reverse sweep.
If that sounds good with you, put on your Falcons jersey, grab your gaming headset, and let's get this show started. What is going on, you guys? I'm your host, Stacy Cole Morgan, and you're listening to the MorganMan Sports Podcast here on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Goodbye HQ, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about the Major 1 tournament happening this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, in Madrid, Spain. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are headed to Madrid, Spain for the first time since the inaugural Call of Duty League season back in 2020. So this is going to be an interesting one right here, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to talk about Atlanta FaZe, who I think is going to win the Major 1 tournament along with my MVP. So without any further delay, let's go get straight into today's action. Alright guys, so the Call of Duty League is headed back to Europe for the first time since the inaugural Call of Duty League season 5 years ago. And guys, let me tell you, I'm super excited for this right here. But this does mean we get some early, and I mean some early Call of Duty League action on your phone screen, your monitor, whatever you are watching the Call of Duty League from. Like Thursday, for example, Winners Round 1 will start at 4 p.m. CET/7 a.m. PST. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that will be FaZe's first matchup, which will be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard against the Boston Breach. Second matchup will be the Toronto Ultra versus the Vancouver Surge at 11:30 Eastern Standard. Carolina Royal Ravens at 1 p.m. Eastern against the LA Thieves. And 2:30 p.m. for Optic Texas versus the Miami Heretics. So that is your start of matches right there, ladies and gentlemen. And so, like I said, these matches are going to be very early in the day. And like for finals, best of 7 this Sunday in Madrid, Spain, will be 11:30 a.m. PST. So, yeah. So you're going to have your whole day still ahead of you pretty much. Everything's going to be super early mornings or like early afternoons. It's not going to go much past that. So I'm super excited about it myself, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you are as well. So since we are always talking about the Atlanta FaZe, let's go ahead and get into discussions against FaZe versus Boston Breach. So for pro standings right here, Boston Breach, for just the Toronto Ultra Major 1, which Toronto is hosting this major in Spain, Boston Breach is 5th place with 50 CDL points, 5-2 map win-loss ratio. And Atlanta FaZe is number 6 with 40 CDL points, 4-3 on the win-loss ratio. But now for overall standings, ladies and gentlemen, Atlanta FaZe does come in at 2nd place, just behind Optic Texas with 70 CDL points with an 8-3 win-loss ratio. The only difference is Optic Texas does have 70 CDL points, but the map win-loss ratio is what gives Optic the tiebreaker over Atlanta FaZe, while Boston Breach is 6th overall in CDL with a 5-3 win-loss ratio, 50 CDL points. So how quickly things have turned around for the Atlanta FaZe is astonishing, and the Atlanta FaZe does have an opportunity to get ahead of the pack this weekend, and that starts with the Boston Breach. So for Boston Breach, we go over overall team stats and hardpoint, search and destroy, and control. So for overall KD, Atlanta FaZe does crack the top 5, sitting at number 2 with a 1.07 KD. Boston Breach does not make the top 5 in overall KD, but for hardpoint win percentage, FaZe in Boston is second and third. FaZe sitting at second with 70.0% hardpoint win percentage. Boston Breach is a 60.0 at third place. For hardpoint KD, FaZe dominates Boston Breach, sitting at second place overall with a 1.10 KD. For hardpoint score, Boston does have the advantage over FaZe in hardpoint score with a 229.80 score rating over FaZe's fifth place, sitting at 221.80. For hardpoint score plus or minus, FaZe is on top of Boston Breach with a 31.75 plus, while Boston Breach is third place with a 18.80 plus. For Search and Destroy, Atlanta FaZe cracks the top 5, sitting at number 4 in Search and Destroy win percentage at a 57.1%. S&D KD, Atlanta FaZe sits at number 2, while Boston Breach sits at number 4. FaZe sitting at a 1.07 overall KD in Search and Destroy, while Boston sits at a 1 KD. Search and Destroy round wins, FaZe does crack this top 5 right here. Boston Breach does not, but Atlanta FaZe does sit at a 5.14 round win for Search and Destroy. For S&D round plus or minus, FaZe does crack that top 5 along with the Boston Breach. FaZe sitting at 0.93 plus, and Boston Breach sitting at a plus 0.43. For control, neither team until you get into the control round wins in the plus and minus. And that belongs to FaZe right there, sitting at 4th place for control round wins, sitting at 2.36. And the control round plus or minus sitting at the 0.27 plus win percentage category. So if I have to guess right, ladies and gentlemen, I think FaZe can definitely 3-0 Boston Breach to start off the Major One tournament this weekend, and that would lead into a lot of just chaos for the rest of the teams ahead, because FaZe is dominant now. They have shown that they've dug themselves out of a hole, and they're ready to win this Major One tournament. So now going through the rest of the bracket, ladies and gentlemen, I did say a 3-0 for FaZe against Boston Breach. For Ultra and Surge, I'm going to say this is a 3-0 for Ultra. For Thieves and Ravens, I'm going to say this is a 3-2 in favor of Thieves. And for Optic and Heretics, I'm going to have to go with Optic and a 3-1. I just don't see the Heretics beating the Optic Tech squad just yet. Now, who I think will make the grand finals for Championship Sunday, guys, I do think that's going to be FaZe versus Optic. I do think it's going to come down to FaZe and Optic to kick things off for the very first major of the CDL 2025 season. And then, of course, your runner-up will be the Toronto Ultra, losing to Optic Texas, of course, because Optic will be sent to the losers bracket. But if I did have a different scenario, I still am going to say FaZe is going to be there against Optic. But this time around, it would be FaZe in the losers bracket having to fight their way up and going up against the Toronto Ultra. As far as winning the whole thing, I do think Atlanta FaZe is capable of winning the Major One tournament. And I am going to have them picked to win it all for the Major One. And for MVP, obviously, I'm going to have to give it to Simp. Simp has been a beast here lately. Like, a Treyarch title game is bread and butter. Just plain and simple. Bread and butter is what is there for Simp in a Treyarch title game. So, guys, what do you think? Do you think Atlanta FaZe can win the Major One tournament this weekend in Madrid, Spain? Europe? Everything is so beautiful right now with the Call of Duty League going over there, hosting that LAN tournament, and hopefully walking back with the dub. and that Major 1 trophy. But guys, I sure hope you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like button wherever you are listening from, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. But until then, Cole Morgan, will catch you all later. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.